Well, the United States and Iran have agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as negotiators race to finalise a peace agreement on the war in the Middle East. In the most positive indication since the conflict began, both countries issued separate statements declaring the strait had been reopened to commercial traffic.
Well, President Donald Trump welcomed the news. He went on to warn that the US blockade of the strait would continue to prevent Iranian ships from travelling until a broader peace agreement with Tehran is signed. Well, Iran has maintained a stranglehold over the vital trade passage since it closed 6 weeks ago. And speaking a little earlier today, President Donald Trump expressed optimism about the prospect of striking a deal with Iran, saying negotiations are quickly progressing.
We're getting along well, but who knows? Who knows with anyone, but who knows with Iran in particular? This process should go very quickly, and that most of the points are already negotiated and agreed to. The USA will get all nuclear dust. You know what the nuclear dust is? That was that white powdery substance created by our B-2 bombers, those great B-2 bombers, late one evening, 7 months ago. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form.
Well, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz has been cautiously welcomed by world leaders meeting overnight to discuss a defensive mission to restore safe passage through the waterway. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was among almost 50 leaders who attended the virtual summit, jointly chaired by the UK and France. The group discussed forming a multinational defensive mission to escort commercial ships through the strait once a more permanent ceasefire holds. 12 countries have already committed military assets, but the Australian government has not said what it's offered or been asked to provide. French President Emmanuel Macron says the provision of security for shipping through the strait would be strictly defensive.
We are all asking for the immediate full reopening, unconditionally for all parties, of the Strait of Hormuz. We are asking for the re-establishment of the conditions of free passage that was in effect before the war and the full respect of freedom of navigation. We all oppose any restrictions or any agreements that amount to an attempt to privatise the strait and, of course, any system of tolls.
Well, the opening of the strait has already had an impact on the global markets. The price of oil dropped by over 10% on news of that reopening. And at one point, benchmark Brent crude dropped to $86 a barrel. It is now sitting back up around $92 a barrel, still well above the pre-war price of $70, indicating that there is still some caution in the financial markets. Well, the US stocks also rebounded with the major Wall Street indices closing higher. The Dow Jones jumped 1.8%, while the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq closed 1.2% and 1.5% higher, respectively.